All right, everybody, thank you for coming, and we are going to start off with our first topic tonight. Anyone who's used Node or even on the front end has probably worked with NPM, the Node Package Manager. More and more, it's the common way we share code in JavaScript. So Ryan is here today to talk us about using NPM to publish your own code and to write your first package. Ryan is here from Smart Home, that's right?
True Home.
Sorry, True Home. Yeah, Ryan has presented before. You might remember some of his other talks on streams, and I think the last time we were all packets on the network, passing things around.
Yeah.
So I'll let Ryan take it from here.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Glad to be here. I hope you're all well fed. So yeah, I'm kind of in the beginner track, so I kind of geared my talk a little bit more for people who may have not used JavaScript or NPM much before. And so I'm just curious how many people feel that they're like advanced in JavaScript? Like, is there any hands there, kind of more advanced? How many people are more like in the beginner side of things? One brave person. Okay, everyone else feels they're a little bit intermediate. Okay. So many of you, if you've been using JavaScript, have probably experienced NPM a little bit. It's used a lot. So I'm just here to kind of go through more of the giving side if you were to contribute back and publish a package. So about me. I'm a little tongue-in-cheek with my humor, so I've been published in such places as GitHub and NPM. What does NPM stand for? So this is probably a first question. Does it mean anything? Could mean Nomad Packaging Mechanism, narcissistic project managers. It's very common. Neatly packaged magic. So it actually doesn't stand for anything. It's common misconception that it's Node Package Manager, but they really want to hammer that it's actually just NPM. All those things, if you actually go to the NPM website, it's kind of fun. They just, like on the top corner, you'll see like, it will swap out if you hit reload or if you click on it, we'll go through a bunch of different variants. So when people talk about NPM, it's actually one of four things usually. So it's a bit ambiguous, so I'll just clarify what it is. One is the website. So I just showed you there's a website, which is kind of the central information about NPM. There's the registry, which is like a big database with all the packages actually in it that are in NPM. There's a client, which is like a command line client called NPM. And lastly, there's a company, NPM Inc., which was founded in 2014. So those are when you say NPM, it could be one of those four things. And as a bit of a play on words, NPM also, like the company, is one of their philosophies is compassion. I don't work for NPM. I do know they're hiring, but it's a very interesting case study in a company. They're a very diverse, compassionate group, I'd call them. And I have a strong message here about technology is not just code. It's code and people. It's code in politics. It's code and it's not just code. And so when they formed this company, there's a lot of values they espouse that are about compassion and having diversity and not being evil and greedy and all these kind of things. And I feel that's important in a stance to take. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. So what are some things that NPM is used for? So this is right from what is NPM on their website, the NPM website. NPM makes it easy for, and I italicize, JavaScript developers to share the code that they've created to solve particular problems, and for other developers to reuse that code. JavaScript is getting a little bit like, you could actually publish a lot of different stuff to NPM. There's like C code in there. There's all kinds of weird stuff. So it's not just JavaScript, but that's typically what it's used for. And then these bits of reusable codes are called packages, or sometimes they're called modules. And basically all it is is it's like a bunch of files in it with one main thing, which is a package.json, which gives the metadata about what's in it. And that's really kind of the nuts and bolts of what a module is. I feel NPM is like the best app store. Like I said earlier, why I like JavaScript, it's like this big diverse playground where there's so much stuff going on, and NPM is like this big candy store, app store. So I just wanted to show off a few of my faves that are fun, that are kind of unique or different. Most of them aren't like super productive, but just as examples. So one fun one is Loop Drop. I just kind of found it. It's for making electronic music if you're doing performance. And then like you can basically, when you have NPM, you get like, you have this app store, and like you run this. It might take a while, so I already have it I'm just showing it off. Oh, demo product. I'll pretend like I'm a DJ here. Oh. Right. Then you can start layering on sounds. Then let's see what else we can get some bass going. Whatever. Anyways, it's really fun. It's all kinds of cool projects and stuff. And like, who thought you could do this with JavaScript, right? It's not something you typically think about. I'll just close it off here. Anyways. Just showing off some of the diversity of the NPM ecosystem. Another fun one is WebTorrent. Many people are familiar with BitTorrent, but there's some great work done in the peer-to-peer space. I'll just do, maybe I'll go to the site. Basically, it's like torrents on the web, and like you start automatically connecting, and it starts streaming the video and stuff. So if you're like doing content hosting, like why host a big file yourself when you can have people who are interested in share, and they have like actually a desktop version of it, which is really cool. You just drag your torrent in and you start watching a video right away. So who needs Netflix, right? So. So some personal ones, DAT. DAT is another peer-to-peer thing. It's without a blockchain kind of sharing. I'm actually using it to host this talk. And based on that is a new browser called Beaker Browser, which lets you actually publish a site in the browser without any kind of back end, and other people can visit it and stuff. It's really quite unique. So up here, I'm just running actually DAT, and all my stuff that I'll be adding will be added in and shared on the network. So fun, cool things there. Another really useful one, emojis. People at work, we love chatting, and finding the right emoji sometimes is really, really great. I don't know, pizza, whatever, just let you do yours. So. You can just NPM install emoji, and there you go. You can find your emojis all the time. Okay, so now you'll have different fun things you'll want to do in programming world. So how do you find things in NPM? I forgot to put the stats on here. Like, it's crazy how big it's getting all the time, and there's like billions of downloads each week. It's such a huge place. So how do you find stuff? Initially, it's the NPM search. So basically, when you go to the NPM website, you can, up at the top, search for random things, find packages. So that's one way. Now, it's gotten way better than it used to be. They've improved it with like Elasticsearch, I think, and like it will try to rank better projects near the top and stuff like that. But you'll still find some dead projects or things like that. So you'll just have to play with it. Another way of finding things, there's a lot of curated lists out there. So there's all these awesome lists going around. Here's some examples. So these are more kind of practical things usually, like like NPM stuff. This one maybe a bit better. So like hardware, command line apps, functional programming, web stuff, debugging, you name it. Like, and these are typically ones that are well vetted on these curated lists. Deep searches. So what I mean by that is the NPM search, while it's getting better, it's still got some limitations. So some people have enterprised to like write different types of searches into NPM. Some of them are better than others. I'm just kind of using as an example these things, and yeah, use at your own leisure. So another way of finding things, specialized searches. I find a lot of ecosystems in the JavaScript world have their own homepages and ways to find stuff. So like if a lot of people use like Grunt as a build system, and you'll find like when you're searching for things like, I don't know, SSH or something, like this is really searching the NPM repo, but it kind of is more geared for their ecosystem. Another one, like even, I don't know how many are familiar with Lodash, but Lodash can be installed in kind of two ways, and each one of these methods actually can be installed as a package. So if I go Lodash dot like head, so you can like, I don't have well, I'll get to it when I have a package JSON. I didn't do it in here, but you can install each package individually. So in that way, it's kind of like a specialized search, if you will. And then there's other like, this one's moved a bit. I haven't used it, but like if you're into React, like there's ecosystems around React to look at all the packages there and stuff like that. So, you know, depending where you're coming into, what you're interested in, there's all these different ways. So kind of more into the meat of my talk, publishing your first NPM module. So you've seen what's out there. Now I'm going to get into, if you actually want to contribute something, some of the things around it. Again, my tongue-in-cheek humor. Does thou publish to NPM? Publish well, for eternal may thy code be. Generations shall gaze upon it. I have this kind of philosophy that we're building this new type of like, where like in thousands of years, people will be able to see the stuff that's in NPM and GitHub and code repos now. So like, you know, you might as well get it right when you do it. So if you're gonna publish to NPM, what are some things you should consider? So the first main one is pick a package name. And naming things, again, my humor, there's two, like the classic quote is, there are only two hard things in computer science, cache invalidation and naming things. I'm kind of saying if you pick a package name, you're actually doing both of those hard things, because it's hard to rename your package later to invalidate the cache. So try and get it right the first time. It's hard to change names. So package names, there's two kind of styles in NPM right now. One is a flat name, which is just like, meaning in the namespace you pick like hockey or something, and the chances of colliding with someone else who wrote the hockey package is quite high. But I'd still recommend it, even, you know, so the second way is what's called scoped, whereas if someone's taken the hockey package, you can like scope it with your username before, and that lets everyone have their own hockey package if they want. But I'd still just try and go for the flat way. So when you pick a package name, first check to see if it exists. Use those search tools I highlighted earlier and search around. You might also want to check GitHub if like similar names exist in other spheres like Python or whatever. So, you know, names are super important, and if it becomes popular, you don't want name confusion and all that fun stuff. You've got two alternate ways to name things. You can go the fun way, and I've given examples, Happy and Joy, which come from like Ren and Stimpy kind of era. So you could be goofy or whatever, or you could like just pick and go the other way, which is very specific. Just do what the name says it does, and like be very concrete. So at work, we try and be really fun with names. It's kind of a skill some of us have, but so after you pick a name, so the next thing I'd really recommend is start with a readme. something called readme-driven development. And basically what you're trying to do there is like before you start coding stuff and like this is gonna be so cool, just kind of like think of it from someone else's perspective. Like if I was gonna use this, tell me why I'd use it. Maybe, flush out some of the API that you're gonna develop or expose that people use. It puts on a different hat and it kind of helps you understand what you're building. And it relates a lot to picking the name, like you're understanding what it does and you're just getting into the meat of it. You don't have to go too far, you don't have to write like the full, but just really a skeleton. Another awesome list, awesome README, you can look at later. It just describes how you should write a README and some of the process. It's really good. And then from that is just roll it up into a short description. Like when you search NPM, usually you'll see a name in that short description, and it's super valuable if that description helps people understand what it is you're doing. So once you've got those kind of things done, blast off NPM init. So what I'm gonna do is, let's call it, so I just, because we're in Edmonton, I'm trying to keep with something around hockey stats. Okay, so let's try making a README. Let's kind of follow. So if I go.
Can everybody do that?
Oh, let me bump this up. So then kind of throw in your short description, find info about any player in the NHL. I don't know, I'm just making this up as we go. Then you usually want to do like a usage, or like maybe let's do install section. And then install hockey stats usage. So you flush this out, and then you go. I'm just going to copy because I'm lazy. And I'm following a certain style here. Don't worry about. And let player equals hockey stats dot, I don't know, find Oilers at 97. Maybe we'll make it a string just in case. Something like that. I don't know. I just made this out of thin air. We have a README. We've kind of described it. Cool. And then we've given it a name. Now we want to npm init it. So we're in this package directory. Oh, let me make it bigger. All we have is a README npm init. And then it starts prompting you for some of this stuff. Okay, what's the package name going to be? Hockey stats. Give it a default version. It's okay to start at 1.0. We don't have to start at 0. Let's just copy the description because we already, in our pre-flight checklist did that. Entry point, I'll get into that a little bit. You can just hit enter for the defaults. You don't have to, you can just hit enter for a lot of these. Hockey stats. So sometimes if people are searching, keywords are helpful. And it will prompt you, yeah, is this okay? We're gonna write it. You just hit yes. And in here we have a package.json. So let's inspect that. This is the magical package.json. That's the meta info that gets us started. Okay, so next steps, what are we building? And I'd like to think about it. We have a couple options. One is are you making reusable code? Is it just a function that's called that other people, and it looked like that from our README. It's just that's probably what it'll be. But there's other options. It could be a command line app. So you might start looking at, there's a bin command, so people could run it like a shell command. It could be a web app. You might want to do a script section with a start script, which triggers, compiling and launching a web server and, compiling your CSS and JS, whatever. So that's, if you're doing a web app, you'd start with your start scripts.start. And if it's something else, you may not even need a main, a bin, or a script. I had this crazy dream once where CNN started publishing news stories via NPM. It was like, what the heck? I don't know. So who knows? Maybe that'll happen one day. Okay. So so what we're going to do here in our package JSON, because it's a module with code, it's calling it index.json file. So we'll just, .js file. Let's create it. And exports equals, and we'll take a team and a player. Whoops. And like, this is really hacky coding, but, and player. Oh, sorry, I'm going over time, so I'll try and hurry up. Return. Let's do it right here. My live coding is. I don't know, we can throw new. Exception, error, throw new error. Okay, I don't know. Okay, so we've reviewed our package.json, so we've given it a name, description. I'd probably want to give a repo and a GitHub. We've filled out the main, so it points to an index.json file. You'll want to review your dependencies, so a lot of times you might go like npm inst, so I'll do that lodash.get. If I do that, it puts it in my node modules folder, and I can go like const get equals require lodash.get, right? But if I actually published it, it would kind of break for other people because lodash.get hasn't been described in here anywhere. And so it's, what the handy thing is to go .save dev, which automatically will put it, it shouldn't be dev, save. And in your dependencies, you'll see a lodash.get thing there, so magic. You might want to review your compatibility. So if you're using fancier kind of JavaScript-y things, you might want to specify an engine section, like if you're using async await kind of syntax or special keywords, you'll probably want to bump to like Node 8, things like that. Review your ignored files. So this is so by default, if you have a .gitignore, when you're publishing to Git, anything in there doesn't go to Git. Now, NPM also will read that and like, oh, if you don't want to push to Git, then you'll probably not want to push to NPM. So if you don't have an NPM ignore, it will read gitignore by default. Sometimes that's kind of annoying because you might want things to go to NPM. So you might create an NPM ignore and just kind of add the stuff in there that you want to have different. So just review those two things. You'll probably want to look at code quality. So you'll, by default, like npm test just like says, there's no test specified. All that's doing, there's really no magic there. It's just running this script called test here. So if you want, you can start doing things like this one called, which is like a linting tool. And this is one where you'd want to save dev. This one actually takes a while to install. But what it does is it makes it so, just before you publish, you can write your tests, you can check for code quality and things like that. So,
Maybe what installing, can you just quickly explain for people the difference between save and save dev?
right. So, yep. So there's two sections in your package JSON. There's a dependencies section and a dev dependencies. Dev dependencies are things that during runtime, a user doesn't actually need. Like they don't need to lint things. When they're checking for hockey players, they don't need standard. So this just says if you're developing on the project and you do npm install, it will install it so your tests will run. So that's kind of the difference, if that makes sense. So if I go npm test now, it will actually run standard, and it's telling me, oh, player has already been declared, so I've got a bug in my code.
It's a parameter.
Oh, right. Good. See, it's handy having these. Okay. Right. That's all right. Right. That. Get this assignment. And we don't actually use this, so let's take it out. So yeah, it's helpful because it silly little things, and now I pass. It's awesome. Now we're ready. Those are kind of all the checklist things. Once you're ready, I will do npm publish, and this is a test package that will go to npm. And I don't have a public to my work. So there's some other things that are handy with npm is there's a global repo, and sometimes for doing proprietary work, you can actually change and move around to different repos and stuff like that. So hey, we've published to an npm repo. Yay, there just was a happy person celebrating here, but just imagine in your heads. Okay, then someone's going to consume it, basically, like I did with Lodash. On the other side, you'll just do required in and use it with a function. And there's lots of different ways to do this. So there's a few dragons, a little hidden warnings, so you know. One, open source. When you publish to NPM, be committed to your module. A lot of people let it die and forget about it. Give it a little love once in a while. Managing open source can be hard. You got to be ready to accept pull requests, or different people will have different. So you came with this vision of this module, and other people, when they use it, are going to have different visions. You're going to have to manage that. And that's the people side of technology sometimes. Semver, which is the version name, can be your frenemy. Sometimes it's really helpful. Sometimes it's really hard. Is this a major release or patch or whatever? Some people will yell at you. Another dragon, ES6, can be really hard sometimes with packages. I just pulled from rollup, which is a thing that converts from ES6 to more UMD and common JS formats. And it's you have to do all these crazy things, basically. I won't get into too much details, but there are some dragons there. It can be done. There are alternate clients. I really like the main NPM packet module, or client, let's say, just because it's got a good team. But there are others, if you're interested, like Yarn. There's other ones that focus on speed, or using DAT, which is totally different, like a peer-to-peer type thing or whatever. So just so you're aware. But I would say they're dragons. Just use the main NPM one. So despite all these lizards and things, it's worth it to publish your own package. So go do it, and you can join the elite 1%. And that's it. So. So questions? Any questions? Let's start back there. You got your hand up first.
Okay. So if NPM is a company now,
yep.
What's the relationship between NPM and the company, and all these repositories of code? What's the governance relationship?
Right.
Do you mind repeating the question for the recording?
Okay, yeah. So the question is, if NPM Inc. is a company, how is it related to the other 3 instances of the NPM name? And one of the things they did by making the company, it kind of guarantees that it will be open source going forward is the idea. I don't know around the client exactly how it works. I still know they have contributors that aren't in the company, and they're like, hey, anyone can develop a client if you want, like Yarn or all these other ones, and they're fine with it. They also, having a company gives them the monetary ability to, if the repo has problems, they can have resources to fix it or to scale it to the crazy numbers of people that are using it now. So I think it was an important step. It's not without conflict. There have been things where like people have like, hey, you've name squatted on a name, and like you have to be able to resolve those things. So yeah. Casey?
So you mentioned ES6 and CommonJS, but is there do they provide a guideline for like what the standard JavaScript that
Right. This is a separate thing from packaging. It's a little bit about the module format you want to align with and use. And typically, the saying is you want to be like as liberal to as many ecosystems as you can when you publish a package. When you consume it, you can be like, screw it, I just want this, whatever. But usually, like, when you're giving back to the world, you're like, I want it to run as many places as possible. So there's different strategies to help that. A lot of build things. There will be a build step before publish to get it in formats that are more accessible, things like that. So.
Brian, maybe we'll cut it up there because we're at half an hour
Okay.
right now.
Okay.
Are you going to be a drink center if people
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Exchange.js is Edmonton's JavaScript meetup. Thanks to our sponsors, Jobber and Investopedia. Support the meetup and like and share this video, and stay informed by following us on Twitter and meetup.com. Links in the description. See you soon!